Hi guys, a somewhat impromptu, unplanned video this evening. First of all, I just want to say thanks to everybody who's subscribed to the channel. I quite surprised by the positivity of the feedback, dumping all those lens reviews in pretty much one go over a 2-day period. It would appear that a global health crisis is the right time to dump a lot of gear information on YouTube. It was generally well received. Anyway, first of all, I did just want to say thanks for all the people that have subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, then why not? Yeah, if you in the Pentaxians group or the Pentax cameras group on Facebook, you've probably seen a post from me recently stressing over cleaning my camera sensor. So I used the Pentax Ricoh 0-ICK1, basically the gel stick. And I have now used the VSGO sensor cleaning wet swab kit. And I thought it might be interesting to talk to you and show you how dirty my sensor was and how clean I was able to get it to. Sorry if you can hear my fridge, it's just gone into overdrive there, and during this lockdown I'm limited on places that I can film, as you might imagine. Yeah, so a couple of things I learned. First of all, sensors are not as sensitive as people make out. You don't have to be quite as gentle as the fear on social media might make you think. This isn't telling you to go and run under the tap, mind. Just, I think it took me longer to get to an acceptable result because I was so fearful of causing damage. But anyway, I'm going to hop on over to my computer and I will show you some images of where I started with on my K1 and where I end up with on my K1, using the stick, where I end up with the VSGO full frame sensor cleaning swabs and their sensor cleaner liquid. And I'll also talk to you about the experience of cleaning my K3 again, which obviously is a smaller sensor, so it is slightly different to do. Anyway, once again, thanks for subscribing to the channel. Hop on over to the computer and see you in a minute. Okay, so here we have the images. Sensor checking images. Essentially, to check the sensor, you take your camera, you stick a lens on it. In my case, I used the DFA 100mm macro. You turn it to the smallest aperture. In the case of that lens, it's f32. You knock it into manual focus it to infinity, just using the guide on the barrel, and then you point it at a neutral surface and you take a photo. I've been doing well in the evening, so I had to use a tripod to do that and getting some quite long exposures. Then when you look at the JPEG, you're supposed to use a JPEG at the highest quality setting. You can see where the dirt is on the sensor. You zoom in and you can see it better. Now you should only be able to care about dirt you can see, because that's what's going to affect the image. Now, not many lenses go to f32, and in the wet kit that I got, the recommendation is that you go to f16, but the Pentax recommendation is that you go to the smallest aperture that the lens will allow. So that's what I did. If you're struggling to see the dots, there was a trick in Lightroom. If you click into the develop module, click the spot removal tool and click visualize spots, it will show you the dirt on your sensor. Now obviously you really only want to be able to see the stuff that you can spot with your eyes. I think if you take it down to about there, that tends to be the stuff you can see with your eyes, which is that. It seems a couple of people think it's unrealistic to get rid of all the dirt, and they are probably true. So probably correct, I should say. Sorry, I started off using the Pentax stick. I did my K3 first. I didn't keep the images from that. The K3 was easy with the Pentax stick. It took seconds. The head of the stick just needs to go down the sensor about 6 times. It's very obvious you've covered the whole sensor because the sensor isn't actually that big physically in comparison to the stick. 6 impressions takes over the whole thing. Now, what I found with the full frame sensor of the K1, it's actually really quite difficult to make sure that you cover the whole sensor when you're putting the stick on, because as you put the stick on, you dab it onto the sensor, you pick it up, and then you put it onto the sticky paper that's supposed to clean the stick. and then you move your eyes back to the sensor and you try to work out roughly where you got to. It takes a lot more touching of the sensor with the gel stick than it does if it's full frame than it does on the APS-C sensor, which means the camera's open for a lot longer as well, which allows the more environmental dust to get onto your sensor. A major improvement I think that Pentax could make to that stick is to make it bigger, to make a bigger version for full frame sensors, so you can get in and out faster and you can keep track of where you're at. It would also be good if on the sticky paper, because you're not supposed to use the same spot twice, they perhaps printed lines so you could follow the line with when you're cleaning your stick. But anyway, we'll go to the images. So we'll go with the grid. This is how the sensor was when I first started, and I've never cleaned the sensor. I've owned the camera since 2017, I want to say, Christmas 2017, but it might have been Christmas 2018. I'm not sure. But anyway, I started to notice on plain background shots a mark around out here that I was having to clone out. So I decided that I would clean the sensor, which was quite a daunting prospect, having never done it before. But if I've learned one thing through this, is that the sensor is a lot harder than you think it is. So when I first tried, this was my very first attempt. It looks worse than when I started. I got a little bit of residue from the stick itself, which is here, and the marks actually seem to have got worse. Now, why? In my opinion, this happened because I had the camera open for far too long, because I was trying to be too careful and too delicate. Yeah, I think that's ultimately it. I was so nervous about doing it, I had the camera open for too long. So I had another go. This was the go, same night. Again, I got rid of the residue from the stick itself. That seemed to self-clean. But the dirt really didn't seem to be getting much better. So the second day, I decided to try again. And you'll notice this is much cleaner than that. Much cleaner. And really, I should have probably stopped there. But I didn't. Because I am a perfectionist and it hurts me sometimes. Yeah, so there's not much there really. There's a few spots. I think there was stuff up near the top here, and I just kept going. Now, then this spot appeared when I tried another pass to get rid of those few little bits of remaining very small dirt, and I should have stopped at that point. Now, this bit of dirt here, I believe, was introduced when I was cleaning. You can see there are other spots, but frankly, I wouldn't worry about that. If you can barely see it at f32, you're not going to see it at f16, and you're certainly not going to see it at f5.6 or f7.1, which is where I generally shoot. So I should have stopped there, but I didn't. So I tried this. I went over the sensor about 5-6 more passes with the gel stick. I couldn't get rid of this spot here, and I could not get rid of this spot here. So I stopped. Spent the next day. I ordered a wet set, the one that I showed you at the beginning of the video, online. Recommended by a few guys in the Pentax groups on Facebook, and I thought I'm just going to have to leave it and calm myself down before I end up breaking my camera. So I spent a couple of days, took a few photos to make sure that I hadn't messed up the sensor, that it could still manage to get its autofocus. So I started this evening with the wet set, and this was a picture I took before I even started. So we've got a couple of marks there, another one there, the big one that just will not go away there. I could physically see this dust speck on the sensor, which I think is one of the reasons that was driving me so insane. Another one there. So I did one pass with the wet cleaner, and this is the result. Pass one, and as you can see, it looks virtually no different to the first one. Why? Because I was nervous. That's my explanation. I was nervous of doing it. I'd read so much stuff about how terrible it was going to be if you tried to do this, and that if you made a mess of it, you were going to destroy your camera, and that would be the end of your life as you knew it. So I was nervous. So I basically barely touched the sensor. I'd only put the 1 drop on of the liquid. The guide tells you to use 1 to 2 drops. 1 when I'd looked online, everybody in their videos seemed to be using 2 drops. So I had another go. This time I used 2 drops. And as you can see, most of the little marks are gone. That one's still there, but again, I've learned that you should learn to live with tiny little marks like that. If you can barely see them at f32, they're not really going to show up in an actual usable aperture. But this one was still there. So I had to go wet pass 3, where I put a little bit more solution on the sensor, on the swab, sorry, a bit more like what I'd seen people doing online. Actually found again I'd introduced a bit more dust than had previously been there by having the door open, and that one was still not gone. At this point, I became incredibly annoyed at myself, and I realised that one of the worries people have about this stuff is that it's going to smear, but I noticed it evaporated very quickly, and I was prepared, according to the manual. Manual is a strong word. The sheet of information that comes with the sticks, to dry the sensor with a dry one that's had no liquid applied to it in the event that you've left excess on. So, in my bad temper, I got a new stick. I put 3 drops on one side, 3 on the other. The recommended maximum is 2 on one side, 2 on the other. I put it on the sensor, and we're supposed to go from left to right and back again, or whichever hand's more comfortable for you, but basically 1 pass with each side of the swab. I went back about 4 or 5 times with the swab, totally over the top, and I could see that I was leaving liquid residue on the sensor, but it was evaporating very quickly, as you would expect that sort of thing to do, and I was prepared to use another swab to dry it if I needed to. And this is the result. So there are still a couple of little minor specks, but the one that had basically become my mortal enemy was gone. There's that one there, and I just feel I have to live with it. It's been introduced from there. I don't know if that one has just slid across. But yeah, I'm left feeling that either system works just as well. The advantage to the wet system is that you're in and you're out a lot faster than you are with the stick system. I feel that the stick needs to be bigger for a full frame sensor to make it easier to get in there quickly and know that you've covered the area correctly. So yeah, I'm not sure I'm any better off in the end of it, and I might give it another pass with the wet swab, to be honest, just to see if I can get that one, because I thought I'd get them more, but I'd missed that one. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful to some. If I had to start again, I'd go with whichever system I could get a hold of cheapest. In this case, it was probably the wet sensor, it's probably the cheaper one, but the gel one will last you longer.